Okay. Is that actually working? Does anyone see a little record icon? Oh, it looks like it is recording. Okay, perfect. So welcome back, everyone. It's now time for the first business group networking panel. And we are being joined today by Ed Roche and Michael James from EBSCO, Bill Carlson from ReferenceUSA. And as you are all aware, the New Jersey State Library licenses ReferenceUSA and EBSCO databases for use statewide. These tools are incredibly valuable for business owners and allow them to conduct vital research for free. So I'm very happy that they're able to join us. We're also joined today by Cristina Fuentes and Alejandro Cruz from the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, and Joe Lamberti and Keith, is it Whalen?
Yes,
okay.
Yes, it's Whalen.
Perfect, from UCEDC. Am I missing anyone from your organizations?
I think Alejandro is,
Yeah,
Alejandro's part of us. Not the EDO.
Oh no, Alejandro, I'm so sorry.
No worries.
I'm getting my names confused. I'm so sorry. So Alejandro, you are from UCEDC.
Yes, I'm with UCEDC.
Sorry, Christina, I added someone to your staff.
That's okay. We need the help all the time.
Yeah, the UCEDC team is me, Joe Lamberti, Alejandro, and Keith.
Okay, perfect. So thank you. Thank you everyone for joining us. We're gonna start by letting everyone from these business organizations introduce themselves and what they do through their company or organization. I'm gonna keep each of you to about 7 minutes just so that we have enough time for questions from the audience at the end. And I will save the questions for the end that come in through chat unless there's something important for clarification. So if you could write your questions into the chat, I think that's the easiest way to keep things going for now, and Naomi and I will make sure that they're addressed. Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, and Ed, you should be able to start sharing your slides.
All right, we're gonna see if this works. You'll have to let me know if anything pops up on screen.
Yep,
right
I
now,
can see them.
You can see the slides?
Yes, so if you
Okay.
go to your slideshow and start presentation, perfect.
There we go.
Yep.
Let me just back up for a second. Hi, everybody. Ed Roche with EBSCO. I'm Vice President of Sales. I'm joined by Mike James, who is our Director of Sales, who works with schools and public libraries. Mike and I have been working with the New Jersey libraries, myself personally, for 25 years. I started working out of our Tenafly, New Jersey office back in 1995 and have been working closely with the libraries ever since. And Mike joined us 15 years ago and has been working with the libraries very closely as well, the school and public libraries across the state. I'd just like to say that we've had a great partnership. We've been providing statewide access to a variety of different databases for nearly 20 years. So it's been a really great partnership that we have enjoyed with all the libraries in New Jersey. And just a little bit about EBSCO. We're a privately held, family-owned company who's been serving libraries for over 75 years. And we're very proud of that and looking forward to the next 75. So I just wanted to give a quick update. Hopefully we won't take the full 7 minutes. If I talk fast, it's because I'm a New Yorker, but I'm an upstate New Yorker, as is Mike. I'm in the Albany area. We're far enough away from the hot spots, but we are obviously maintaining our social distance, both as families and as a company. And I would just like to say that we extend a thank you to having us join this session today, and hope that everybody's doing well. So a little bit about EBSCO. Our mission in serving libraries, we have an aim for transforming lives by providing relevant information, reliable information, 24/7 in an online world, 7 days a week, wherever the users may be, whether it be at school, which happens to be at home today, whether it be at work, or whether it be from the public library. There's a number of databases that are available. We're gonna just touch on a couple that are most relevant to the topic today, supporting small businesses and entrepreneurs. But if you have any questions about what is available to libraries and patrons across the state, the Jersey Clicks page provides a really nice breakdown of the variety of databases available. So the ones that we want to touch on and happy to answer questions on are specifically our reference centers, our Small Business Reference Center, and our Legal Information Reference Center. These provide access to all sorts of tools, including videos, details on creating business plans, legal information reference books, legal forms, many of which were just updated recently with New Jersey specific legal forms. So we appreciate any feedback or suggestions that you have. If there's anything specific to the state of New Jersey that we need to update, we welcome that feedback, and we're always trying to keep these databases current and relevant. Another one which happens to be very timely and very relevant is the Job and Career Accelerator. This is a resource from our Learning Express division. They've been providing this resource to the state of New Jersey for a number of years now. It helps job seekers to find information about different jobs, about exploring different jobs, even exploring colleges and scholarships that might be available to them. Because right now, with so many people out of work, this might be a time where they might be considering going back to school and furthering their education to improve their job chances. There's things like resume and letter builders, interview guidance, and all of this can be customized and personalized to the end user. Something I want to touch on as well is resources that EBSCO is making available during this time to public libraries, to end users. These are free resources that we have culled from different databases and services at EBSCO, free content, clinical information, information to help students who are in a learning from home environment today. But as far as working with businesses, we want to pull out and just sort of let you know that something that we've made available on this page, this COVID-19 resources for libraries page, is some free videos and business book summaries to support working from home. Some of my favorite have been some podcasts, managing stress, and also a series of webinars to help librarians sort of, if you are not familiar with the different resources or how to use them or how to promote them and work with businesses, we're conducting a series of webinars. We're actually looking to sign people up who might be interested in giving a webinar on how they are doing those things. So if any of you would be interested in participating in that, we would welcome you to do that. Some examples of some of those resources that I just mentioned that are freely available right now. Things for managers, things for individuals, a few on here that I'm taking advantage of, like trying to simplify my email. Also work-life balance, because we don't go out to work. I seem to work from home 7 weeks straight now. And it's good to be able to put that balance in between, making sure that you don't just work 24/7. And then one of my favorites is decreasing your stress with humor. So these are just some additional videos. This information is going to be posted, I believe, to the New Jersey State Library website. So if you want to come in and check any of these out, you can click on them and it'll take you through to that information. Just two more things that I want to mention before turning this over to Mike is we offer training. There's a website here that you can click on for training, and also promotional materials to sort of help promote the resources available in the library. So before turning it over to our next speaker, I want to have Mike James just mention something that's fairly new that we have been working on partnering, and this is called the Entrepreneurial Mindset Training. So I'm going to let Mike speak for just a couple minutes, and we really appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Thanks, Ed. In the spirit of supporting small business and entrepreneurs, Duncan Smith, the creator of Novelist, has developed this product, the Entrepreneurial Learning Initiative. It's designed with the idea in mind that an individual who might not have the background, the expertise in terms of how to start their small business, or maybe they have that aha moment and aren't quite sure where to go with it, It's designed to kind of move them in that direction. It is an 8-module course, and it's designed to be self-paced. Ed, can you advance the slides? Yeah, it's basically designed for, you know, the idea that somebody that just has an idea can go into a library and learn. And I think that now it's even more pertinent with the amount of people that are losing their jobs. Maybe they never had the opportunity to start something on their own. And this allows them to do that right from the very first step. And it's designed to help develop confidence, which is one of the biggest things that you need to have when you're starting a small business. You can keep going, Ed. I know we're limited with time here. This is the Georgia site. We can put this right on your website, and you don't even have to have any kind of prior knowledge with how to start something up for yourself. This kind of takes you step by step through that process. And in these 8 modules that you can see here, it's all self-paced, so they can learn as they go at their own pace. And these are fairly in-depth modules. And I know, Andrea, I think you've heard about this, but this is something that is gaining more traction now with things being how they are and folks having the opportunity to learn more about starting their own business. They don't have to have the startup capital. They can learn how to gain access to that and just kind of start from square one and feel good about it. So this is it's an important product that's been in development for a while, and there's been a lot of interest in this sort of thing. So we're kind of gauging that interest at the state levels right now.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And there was a question that came in about the Jersey Clicks EBSCO contract. That will be continuing through 2020. I don't know, Mike or Ed, if you know, I believe it's a multiple year, but
Yes,
I think it was just
that's
signed.
a very good question, because having access to those resources is very important. And as far as I know, in my conversations with the state library, the plan is we're coming up to the 2nd year of a 3-year agreement. And the plans are to renew that and continue for that additional 2-year period. I haven't heard of any other changes at this time.
Okay, great. And yes, I actually have a free trial for that entrepreneurial mindset course. So
Yes.
that is one of the many things I'm working on from home. So thank you.
One of the quick questions
fantastic.
I had was, do you need an extension on that trial?
Oh, that's a good question. I will talk to you offline about that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I
Thank you.
believe I stopped sharing so that we can move on to the next speaker.
Perfect.
Hopefully I've given you control back to the screen.
Yes, so Bill from Info Group, you are welcome to share your screen and go if you need to,
Yes.
and you are next.
Excellent, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bill Carlson. Now, as Andrea mentioned, I work for Info Group. ReferenceUSA is a product of Info Group, and gosh, we've been in the library market now for nearly 30 years. The company started in 1972, pretty much as a list marketing company. And in the early days, and some of you may recall this, in the early days, we provided access to ReferenceUSA on a disk that would be uploaded to local computers at the libraries, and then access would be provided that way to the patrons. I did want to point out, and I do have my ReferenceUSA screen available here, but what I've done is I've just gone under the About Us, because I think it's nice when patrons can certainly learn about our data quality. So there is a 3-minute presentation there on how we collect our data and how we verify the information that we acquire on these businesses across the United States. So that is something they can simply get to by going to the About Us. I also have some additional information here. You know, we often talk about, and I've been doing programs now for the state and various libraries across the state of New Jersey for the last 3 weeks, I believe, and I was there simply about 10 weeks ago. So a lot has changed in that time, and I think it's important to understand the various users that could take advantage of our information. Certainly those small business owners, marketing professionals, those individuals who need to be able to get in front of either other businesses and or consumers for that matter. Certainly anybody that needs to do any kind of research maybe about particular industries, their growth, perhaps the reverse of that growth. Certainly job seekers and students will use our database. When I was out 10 weeks ago, I did presentations at several universities. So the options there are pretty endless. We do have the ability to allow the end user to overlay information about our businesses in the geography that they've selected. So we offer a density map that will allow you to see that information, make sense of the region, make sense of the area that someone is interested in for perhaps prospecting. And certainly you can get to just the end results as well. So if somebody wants to be able to download that information, they can certainly do so in groups of 250. But it's endless in terms of how many they can actually take out. If they need 1,000 records or a couple of thousand records, they can do so. And this is a tool that is probably a couple of years old in our database, and it allows you to then draw your own shape or even use a radius. We have some predetermined boundaries. You can even create drive routes. So if I'm an individual and I need to commute to a particular area, and I want to see what businesses are along that particular route that are of interest to me, I could certainly do that. And that tool is available not only just in our business database module, but also in our consumer modules, etc. So know that all of that is certainly available to any of the patrons. And with that in mind, I do want to go back to my home page here. It's important to note that, and we take, back here in Omaha, we take calls Monday through Friday from patrons that have questions about how to build a search or how to get to certain types of data. Maybe they're even asking about data that we don't necessarily have readily available through ReferenceUSA, but we might have access to it otherwise. They can certainly reach us through our Contact Us. We are also offering webinars. So they vary on different topics. We do have a YouTube video channel out there that they can go and watch 2 to 3 minute little segments on how to search using certain tools, all the way to full-blown 30 to 60-minute webinars on how to use the database. So if they're doing this perhaps late in the evening and they've missed one of those webinar opportunities, they could still learn about it. And we do offer a training guides on all of the modules that they could take advantage of, and maybe just have that up and be referring to the ABCs of how to search the database. The other thing that we've offered just recently is the ability to change up the language selection within the database. So if English isn't my primary language and I speak Spanish, I could go into the language selection and see if that were available to me, and then switch up that language if need be. So that's available. And I also like to point out, and some of you may have been to some of our presentations this week, I have the ability to save searches. So I can create my own user profile and then save my queries. Maybe I don't need to download that information, but I can certainly save that and come back to that at any point in time and get that access to that information. And it will be the most recent information as it relates to that particular saved search. So these are all of the modules that are available to the New Jersey State Library. So obviously our business module receives a lot of attention, but so does the historical information. That will provide information dating back to 1997 on the module. We do offer our jobs and internships module. That's a partnership that we have with Indeed.com, and we update those job postings every night. Also have the Canadian business information, our new business filings, which are filings that we're getting through the Secretary of State's office, and we're housing them here. It's still pretty raw data at this point because we haven't spoken to that new business owner yet to verify that information. Once we do, we will move that record and put that into the U.S. business database. Right now, as you can imagine, with the COVID-19, there has been a lot of attention with the U.S. healthcare. Folks needing information about doctors in their particular community, this will provide them with that access, and they can do that based on the primary specialty of that doctor like to see. They can garner information about where they went to school at, the state or states that they might be licensed in, how many patients they see, types of insurance programs that they accept, or do they accept Medicaid or Medicare, etc. So that information is all available in that one, and that gets updated every month, as does our consumer lifestyles. This is a great tool, and I talked about this with a group earlier today. For those businesses that are doing B2C types of initiatives, this can be tremendous information for them to obtain. We do have our standard white pages, our Canadian white pages, and our new movers, new homeowners. That's a relationship that we have with the United States Postal Service, and we're able to bump our database up against that national change of address. So if a business needs information about consumers that are new to their area, they can certainly obtain that through that particular module. All of those are available through the state library. Andrea, that is it. Thank you for allowing me to be here today, and I hope everyone is well. Any questions? You bet.
Okay, I didn't see anything in the chat, but every time I hear a presentation about ReferenceUSA, I learn something new. So thank you very much. We have such a great relationship with our statewide database providers. And you provide training for library staff as well as the public. So I know, Bill, that we have to take a second look at how that might be offered through the remainder of the year because of travel restrictions and things like that. So if anyone is interested in finding out more about what we might be able to put together, you can let me know. Otherwise, Bill and I will be chatting and figuring out what we can offer statewide.
Absolutely, and that's certainly for staff, but patrons as well.
Yes. Okay, so Christina, Bill, if you could end your screen share.
Okay, I have to? Okay.
I know. I feel so terrible making everyone, giving everyone a time limit, because I know that everyone loves to talk about what they offer and what they do. So I feel very cruel right now. All right, Christina.
Okay, I'm trying to get to the bar. There we go. Okay. So I've changed up my presentation. Typically, I would highlight everything about small business services and EDA and our efforts in helping small businesses and entrepreneurs. But due to COVID-19, it's essentially going to be a little bit different. And I want to highlight all the efforts that EDA has in place now and that we've been working on so far since this crisis has hit. I'm just going to do a brief overview, though, of small business services at EDA. It was a fairly new initiative that EDA created back in November of 2018 to really just kind of help startups kind of work their way through the state systems and understand and navigate how to go through which entity and for which assistance. I noticed a kind of huge downfall in the sense that a lot of people didn't know what a small business development center was and all the free services that are offered there, plus also what a CDFI was as well and the services that they can offer. So our biggest effort that we were planning on taking on 2020 was really marketing those through our small business resources workshops and spreading them out more throughout the state. But due to COVID, I think there's, obviously a redirection of efforts in trying to just, administer our current incentives that we have for businesses, but hopefully we can get back to that as well, just because during this crisis, it's kind of just really showed that, there needs to be this holistic connection of resources and communicating to people. So part of what we've done is really put together a package. This was back towards the end of March. We had a special board meeting that released these new incentives. And we leveraged our own balance sheet. And for those who don't know much about EDA itself, although we are considered a state bank and we have lending facilities and opportunities for people, we do not get a state appropriation from the governor each year. So we operate and exist because we generate fees off of our products. And so that's how we've been able to sustain ourselves, but also we were able to offer these incentives as well during this crisis off of our own balance sheet. And this was just like the suite of packages that we offered. And I'm going to highlight very briefly, we did have a grant program. It went live on the 3rd. We had $5 million in a pool, which is fairly small for this type of demand that's out there. But it was very focused in the sense that we could give $1,000 per employee, but they had to be W-2'd employees. So we could verify through their WR-30 that they filed for the last quarter of 2019. We niched it down by very specific retail and industry specific NAICS codes. As you can see, those were the ones that were eligible. So we had over 34,000 applications that came through. So we are currently processing all of those at this time. We did get lucky in the fact that CRDA, which is the Casino Reinvestment Development Authority, has stepped up and offered $2 million to support all the Atlantic County businesses as well. So that helped that $5 million kind of get spread a little bit farther throughout the state. So we were very appreciative of that. And also the Atlantic County businesses were too. But we're still working through this pipeline of applications and trying to get through everything. And there is an appeal process, so that can potentially hold things up. But it was an incentive that offered up to a $5,000 grant for small business owners with a commercial location. We also had a loan program as well that went live. It was $10 million that we put for loans, basically, again, commercial location operating expense loans for potentially what your operating cost would be for the next 6 months. And you could receive a loan at 0% interest rate. We did have terms up to 10 years, but for that first 5 years, it was interest free. So the potential is, basically get the money now while you need it, and then hopefully you don't need it in a year or two, and you could essentially just pay off your loan faster if you wanted to, or if had to really sustain yourself a little bit farther as well too. But we are still working through those applications. We received over 2,300 and a $220 million ask total. So as I said, it's the amount of dollars that would need to be put out there is just exorbitant. So we knew we weren't going to be able to really help everybody, but that's why we were kind of, leveraging the additional federal SBA products and PPP as well. And then we were trying to just offer additional support out there too. We also looked to our CDFI partners as well too, by offering a product which was the first loss reserve fund, which essentially we put $10 million on our balance sheet to be able to leverage and partner with our CDFIs through their own allocation that they opted into. The CDFIs all created a separate COVID working capital loan product that they can essentially leverage their balance sheet to do the maximum amount that they felt that they could administer on their own capacity. We provided some guidelines and parameters to that because we wanted fairly simple working capital loans at cheap rates for these customers that have been impacted. But the CDFIs really have that community-based efforts. So they already have their loan portfolio of customers that they're working with, but they also, serve distressed communities as well too. So we felt by leveraging this and coming in with a 50% guarantee for any kind of loan product that they're working for the next 5 years, it kind of helps leverage any kind of resources they could identify to support these efforts. And you can see these are the 6 CDFIs that we've partnered up with. And there are, New Jersey Community Capital has released their product. It's the Garden State Relief Fund. They actually have a fairly large pool and over 200 applicants that they're working with currently to get them working capital loans that can go up to $75,000. UCEDC as well had already actually build out their pipeline in the end of March because they had did an early release on a product that went so fast that they, couldn't really catch up to it. So it just kind of helped in the sense that when we offered grants to our CDFIs as well, we factored in buying down interest rates too. So that pipeline that they've built out, they were able to buy down interest rates for customers too. So it's like a multiple effect that we've had with the CDFIs, and they're really our partners throughout this whole crisis too, because it's just like trying to build up their capacity. And like I said, a lot of people don't know who they are and what their main role is. And I think they're so impactful to these communities, and I just want to be able to build them up and promote them as much as possible. So, we'll look to additional efforts as well and how we can continue doing that. We also look to, for anybody outside of an SBA, like you have your small business development centers that are supported by SBA. Then you also have 2 state women entrepreneur centers that are funded through SBA to offer technical assistance. So what we did was we looked to people who are outside of that realm because you actually have 12 small business development centers throughout the state. And then with those 2 women's business centers, you have 14 entities that could technically help you with your applications and, kind of offer some technical assistance. But again, just with the need, it was so, the small business development centers were very inundated. So we looked to these 4 partners to kind of help people. You didn't have to be a member of any of these chambers or anything. And Rising Tide's actually a micro lender with some limited funding that they can offer, but they offer that true technical assistance and walking you through those applications. So for the EIDL through SBA, you could go to these entities and help them, process that application for you, and we reimburse them on the back end. And then we added in PPP as well too to offer that hand-holding that sometimes is a little bit needed. And they've been able to reach almost 300 small business owners too. So it just kind of helps spread, all the additional support that was out there for everybody. What we did internally was we looked at our own portfolio and how we could help our own customers potentially. It was very easy. You didn't have to go through a modification. It was just an opt-in. Do you want 3 months with no payments? And we offered that directly to customers that have been in good standing for 120 days. So we've been looking at ways we can waive fees. All our products that were released related to COVID-19 had no fees associated with it. We didn't want to, inundate people on top of that, but our normal lending products still would have those fees. So going into our normal lending products, we do have our newest edition. This micro business loan was actually released in the end of December. We were planning on marketing it and ramping it up, and then COVID happened. So it is an alternative that for anyone who's looking up for startup financing, this is the first time EDA's allowed startups to actually qualify for financing and fit into the box. So it's a working capital and equipment are the eligible costs, and they can qualify for up to $50,000. It's a 10-year term, very patient capital at a guaranteed 2%. But the biggest advantage that we have is it gives you up to 3 years of no payments. So it allows a startup to actually start up. And, one of the biggest things I see out there is there's just no options for startups. Unfortunately, I couldn't get around this as a secured loan, so there is still a collateral requirement. But if you are utilizing it for equipment, we can utilize the equipment towards the lien. So it kind of still helps benefit these smaller businesses that have less than 10 full-time employees, are making less than $1.5 million in revenue. And like I said, you can be a startup. The minimum credit score as well is only a 600. So again, not too many hurdles for people, but I find that collateral and the fact that we can't offer it to home-based businesses, unfortunately, because it's only $1 million out there, I still have to find ways to kind of niche it so it's not, flying out the door too fast or competing with too many other resources as well too. So it is an option out there. If anyone is interested, you can always find more information on our website, and it's provided there at the bottom. But then also, hopefully the intention is for that person who receives a micro business loan to gradually increase into our normal products like our small business fund and direct loan. A small business fund would be essentially for a business that's making under $3 million. So you would graduate from micro to small based on your revenue size. And then if you look to buy a building down the road, you go from leasing to buying. We have direct loans as well that really help with that bigger customer too. And these are some additional resources. The state has set up a portal that's cv.business.nj.gov, where essentially if you need any information, and as our products were rolling out too, we released screenshots of the applications. We had a grant size calculator. So people knew essentially who qualified. There's a wizard as well. For specific products, like, am I a good fit for this or that, and where should I go? And that first screenshot at the top, there's actually a search bar, which I utilize myself a lot of times, for any kind of topic that you're looking for. And it's related to statewide. It's not just, economic or EDA specific, it's anything state. So if I had a question about, people who are leasing space right now and they need help, well, unfortunately, it's only for residential. It's not for commercial spaces at this time. So this site is very helpful for anyone who needs that kind of direction, and feel free to share it with anybody that would need help. And there's also a chat bot that's serviced and manned from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day. So that way you can directly ask a question in regards to unemployment. Sometimes that's a big issue too. EDA specific, status of grants, loans, stuff like that too. But there's somebody typically that's always there that can help you. And that's it.
All right, great, thank you. And as we've kind of said before, basically this entire event was planned before COVID-19. So it's also very interesting to see how the business support organizations have had to pivot in response to that. So Christina, I know that you're very busy. Again, thank you so much for your time to be here today and for putting even more on an already full plate in response to this.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me, though.
Thank you. And last but not least, we have UCEDC. So Joe, if you are able to share your screen, I know you wanted to take us to the website, I believe. All right, perfect.
Oh, I think you're muted, Joe.
Okay, now you can hear me.
Yes.
All right, are we looking back at the website for UCEDC?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Sorry for that little glitch. And hello, good afternoon, everyone. And I want to thank you, Andrea, for putting this all together and having all the resource partners speak on what they do. I see some recognizable names on the list, and it's nice to see that. And unfortunately, we can't be doing this in person, but hopefully soon to come. So I thought I would share, take you through our website, a little tour there that would answer many of the questions. So again, just introducing myself with UCEDC. My name is Joe Lamberti. I'm the director of our small business training team. And in fact, I'm joined by a couple of folks on our training team, Alejandro Cruz and Keith Wellen on the line, as well as our executive vice president for UCEDC, Eric Peter. So we, in a sentence, we are resources for and solutions for small business. So our entire focus is on small businesses, and we are UCEDC. It stands for United Counties Economic Development Corporation. So we are a private, nonprofit, statewide economic development corp. As such, as I mentioned, providing resources and solutions for small business, essentially in three service pillars, lending to startup businesses and growing businesses, the training workshops and counseling that we provide, and government contracting assistance. What I'll do is spend just a minute on each of those service pillars throughout our website that nicely illustrates all of that, and also kind of serves as a reminder for you to go and explore our website and click on the different service areas, and you can learn more, since we only have about 5 minutes or so to go through this. So here is the home page, and you can see scrolling up and down, you can learn about each of our main services, and here you can see the millions that we've loaned to small businesses, the thousands of jobs that we've created, tens of thousands of entrepreneurs that we've trained over the years, and the billions of dollars in government contracts. So backing up, our 3 service pillars that I'm pointing out here: lending, training, and assistance with government contracting. We'll go through each of those for just a minute to help you learn a little bit more. Under the lending, Christina actually helped to introduce us. Thank you for that, Christina. We are a CDFI, Community Development Financial Institution, one of the partners that Christina from New Jersey EDA mentioned in the presentation just before. And as you can see, we're an SBA lender, we are providing microloan products, the SBA's 7A Community Advantage, a special version of the 7A loan that we do, and the 504 loan, which is a commercial real estate major equipment loan. And you can see through here, you can click on each of those loan products and learn more, and certainly talk to a loan officer. We've got naturally a complete lending team and a separate team that does assistance with the government contracting, which I'll touch on in a moment too. Also, be sure to check out a few of these very specialized loans, microloans, particular loan for women-owned businesses, and a rapid response and a prime lock loan that you can explore and learn more about. Under the training arm, there's my specialty. I could talk about this for hours if you'd let me, but I won't do that. I'll just hit a few highlights for you. You can click in here and sort of see a catalog of the training topics that we do. And our relationship with libraries is many years deep and strong. And when in an in-person environment in 2020 BC, before coronavirus, most of the training workshops that we did happened in libraries. So we're tuned in with all the county library systems throughout the state, and we've done training workshops in you name it, across the state. And most recently, as you can imagine, a lot of our training and counseling and financial assistance has been in response to COVID-19. We put together a special informational webinar on COVID-19 responses for resources and relief programs, and we've touched on many counties and municipalities throughout the state already, and plan to be doing more as needed and as they come up. We just did one recently, just last week for Mercer County, which, if it had been in person, would have been at the Lawrence Library, the headquarters for the Mercer County Library System. So you can see here on upcoming events in the training workshop area, dropping that tab down chronologically. I'll call your attention to the marketing research tools for small business. Guess what this is all about? The large focus is on the ReferenceUSA tool. So Bill Carson, thank you. We use that an awful lot. We're somewhat of data geeks here. We love training this topic and introducing and helping people navigate through ReferenceUSA and developing the all the data that can bring for prospecting tools and understanding your market, and very effective. So that's extremely helpful.
Excellent.
Yeah. Next up is an example of our government contracting assistance, a workshop for learning how to do business with the government. So you can scroll through that and see what's upcoming chronologically. As you can imagine, everything is turned into webinars now, and so even though it may be focused on a particular partner's audience, county or municipality, naturally everyone from around the state can log in and participate, and that's really increased attendance on our training workshops. So we're happy to report that. The third major service pillar that I mentioned is our assistance with government contracting. We are what's called a PTAC, Procurement Technical Assistance Center. And as such, we teach you how to do business with the government and make sure that you are, registered on the right sites, and the bid matching and the proposal developments. And we do a number of free seminars. Just did one last week that teach you the basics of doing business with the government. So finally, I want to make sure that you know how to contact us. General contact information here at info@UCEDC or PTAC@UCEDC. Please feel free to reach out, ask any questions. If there are other potential partners out there that we can align ourselves with, we're happy to hear about that. One thing I do want to point out is that we've recently an alliance partner is the Fresh Start program, the library program. Peggy Cadigan, if I'm pronouncing it.
Peggy Cadigan, yep.
Yeah. We've had a couple of conversations with Peggy, and we are putting together a entrepreneurship 101 course, a 7-week course that is focused on the reentry population. So those formerly incarcerated or court-involved individuals that are getting back into the job market, or in our case, those that are taking the alternative of starting a business. So we've got a number of alliance partners to help us reach the right audience and provide the training for those reentry folks, which will be a course that'll happen this fall. So we're really excited about that, and our longstanding relationship with libraries in general. And thank you again, Andrea. And for anyone who wants to contact us, let us know how we can help.
Great, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
We did have a couple of questions come in. Bill, can we show your YouTube videos on our channel? That was from Vera in Parsippany. Vera, if you want to elaborate a little bit.
Hi, Bill. Parsippany has started their own YouTube channel, finally,
Sure.
in the in the midst of all of this. And
Right.
I just want to know how we can, rather than send people searching for this information, how we can have it there for them so they will continue to come back for that. I've seen a number of things, and I know we're going to talk about the Google, Grow with Google later, and I figured out kind of how I can kind of control that, because we want to know how many of our residents are actually attending these other webinars and doing it so that we have an idea of what they're interested in and how many are actually showing up. so that we know where to direct our focus. So I just saw you had a beautiful list, and I was like, oh, that's good, that's good. How do we direct that, or can we?
You can, and what I would do is, let me, I'll provide you with my email address. Just shoot me a message and I'll get that insight back certainly to you, because I know that some other libraries have done that. I don't know the technical processes that may have been in play for that, but certainly would get that for you.
Well, I appreciate that, because beside the technical processes, I was concerned about digital rights, airing rights,
Sure.
And those kind of issues. I didn't want to just snatch and say, "Oh, look at this! Isn't it great?"
Right. Yeah, that won't be a problem.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
You bet. And Andrea, do you provide everyone with our contact information, or?
Oh, yes, I will email that out afterwards.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yes. And Christina, is the NJEDA still accepting applications? I believe that this was in respect to loans maybe around COVID-19 or recovery.
Yeah, so we had to shut down the loan application and the grant application shortly after, just because of oversubscription. But we still have our normal lending products that people can access online as well. But I'm going to also provide you, Andrea, the small business services at NJEDA.com, like to kind of really utilize that for any general questions that anybody may have. It's just an easy way to get a hold of somebody.
Okay, great. And I know that for a lot of library staff, probably these more complicated questions about funding and loans and all of that, probably a little bit more than they would be comfortable just answering on its surface. So do you have a piece of advice for maybe when some of those questions come in about, I know from my reference experience that I would get questions about where are the grants for, insert population group, or how can I get money to start my business? And I'm sure that the questions now are around the loans and the other funding available in this emergency situation. So when those questions come in, do you have kind of a best practice where to send things? Would it be directly to that email address or that you just sent, Christina, or is there somewhere else?
Yeah, so that's where, people can utilize the portal for general information and the chatbot. If you're not going to get your questions answered, and that could be holistically about the crisis, you might have a more specific question about EDA products. So then that's when you would reach out to EDA, and you can utilize that email and say, hey, I saw, the micro business loan. Can you give me more details about that kind of a thing? Or, hey, what are the CDFIs and what products do they have? And that's where we would do that facilitating and connect you to the right entity and the right person. Or what's my small business development center that I should be talking to and reaching out to? We're happy to do that facilitation. And then if we can't address it, then we connect you to the entity that does do it.
Great. And I think that that's one of the best takeaways from all of this as well, is that all of these different groups talk to each other. So if you don't know where to go, everyone is making referrals across the board. So, you might start by contacting where you think the answer might be, but they're happy to refer you to someone else who might be able to more specifically answer that question. Okay. So I see other people are interested in the YouTube thing. So Bill, I will make sure to share your information.
Excellent.
And Ed and Mike, about the entrepreneurial mindset training. So that is a product that we do not have statewide. It is not something that we are licensing at the state library. But for libraries that are looking at that, is there a way to get a free trial or something else along those lines?
Yes, actually there is. There's a trial link that I think expires today or tomorrow, but we can extend that and you can pass that to the libraries.
Okay.
So
Sounds
I
good.
can get that updated for you and send it over.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So I think that would be another thing. If you're interested, you can put your name into the chat, or would you mind if it went out to people who are registered for this event? Maybe we have to talk offline about how many
Yeah,
trials.
I think we just need
Yeah,
to
we can talk
maybe
about that.
verify that.
Okay. Here I'm giving away everything.
We think it would be great. We'd love to. We have a partner. Let us just verify. But I think that would be great.
Okay, perfect. Okay, and we've come up against our time. Actually, we went a bit over. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us for this networking panel. If we had been in person, you would have been at tables and there would have been so much opportunity for one-on-one discussion, but your being here to share this information was incredibly valuable, and we'll figure out a way to get everyone in touch with you for additional questions afterwards. So thank you again.
Thank you so much, Andrea. Thank you,
Thank you
everyone.
very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrea.
And we'll take a quick break, and at 1 o'clock we will be starting with Grow with Google in New Jersey.